What's going on, everybody? Thank you for tapping into another episode of the Mindful Money Makers, where we give you all the tips, tricks, and mindset shifts you need to make if you want to live by design instead of by default. And that's default. I'm super
Yeah.
excited. Right, I kind of swallowed it up there. I'm super excited to be introducing you to this individual. I've been following her for a while, and I have to say that I'm thoroughly inspired and motivated by her consistency and her authenticity and her commitment to bringing out the best in the people that she works with. She's
Mhm.
definitely had a positive influence on me, and so I'm happy to be able to give her her flowers and introduce her to the people that I know and love, and hopefully connections happen and sparks fly. Today, we're talking to Jaya Rose, who is the creator of the Being Well paid method and sensitive baddie, a movement for energy sensitive entrepreneurs who want to grow to six figures and beyond without burnout or over giving. And I love that last part too. Yeah,
Mhm.
clock that. Let's clock that last part because a lot of us feel, and I know that I'm probably the poster child, that if we want to have
Mm.
successful businesses, we need to give all of ourselves, our time, our energy, our attention,
Yeah.
everything that we possibly can. And a lot of times it turns out to be free, especially when you're a content creator like us. So I'm excited for our conversation to see
Mhm.
exactly where it goes. But before we jump in, how we doing today, Jaya?
Yeah. Doing very well. It's a Saturday, so this is, like, not my normal work day. It's kinda fun to be in, like, regular life and then tap in, so I'm liking the energy.
Yes, indeed. I'm so happy to have you here. Now, I was able to introduce you kind of on a surface level really briefly. I want to
Yeah.
give you an opportunity to talk a little bit more about yourself, your story, where you started. I've been following you for a while, so there's some things that I can
Mhm.
bring up. But what do you think is relevant as far as where you started, where you are now, and where we're headed?
Yeah, oh gosh. Where we're headed, Lord, how long do we have? Or how short do we I have no idea where we're headed, but I'm concerned about it, I'll just say that,
Mhm.
in general. So I'll go back to where I started, that might be a little bit of an easier conversation. So 10 years ago, I had been an entrepreneur for the decade before that. I had been an on and I was a fitness trainer, so personal trainer, I owned a little fitness studio, and I had done what you're talking about, which is live your life by design. Like I very much have subscribed by that rule the whole time because burnout would be inevitable, even just doing half of what is demanded of the typical person.
Mhm.
I am very low functioning in the way society demands of us. And it led me to entrepreneurship as literally the only choice for me. And so that I feel very grateful for because I didn't have to do the whole 9 to 5 path and then get out of it. It was very natural for me to find the online space 10 years ago. And the thing that wasn't natural was to explore, what do I actually want? I think it's really easy to just play small. Like for me anyway, like my
Mhm.
story very much was that I did what I did because I could do it. I had a small fitness studio. I saw enough clients to make enough money. $30,000 a year at the time. I don't know how I lived on that as a single mom, but it was fine. It was like I didn't want for more, but I also had no security, no retirement, no elevating my life. And it was when I found the online space and saw women like me who were moms, who maybe didn't have a doctorate degree, to prove her worth for success. And I was like, oh, maybe I could do it. And so I started creating a vision for myself and for my life that I didn't ever think was possible because of my sensitivity, because of my neurodivergence. And I remember that phase so well as being something that, how you always hear the like, that was the moment, like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
most life-changing thing ever. And there really were a number of those moments. And the thing that stands out is creating this vision for like, who do I actually want to be?
Mhm.
And what am I capable of? What is my potential?
Mhm.
And when I was living under the radar, basically, like just flying under the radar, doing the minimum of what it took to live, I never asked those questions. And so the last 10 years there's been a lot of different things. We can go
Mhm.
into different parts of it, but the core of my story is that once I found the online space, it unlocked an understanding of how I could grow a six-figure or multiple six-figure business without the burnout, without the overgiving, which I always thought was required.
Mm.
Right? And that's,
Mhm.
where I've developed my being well paid method, and this is really around how to monetize your unique genius in the least time consuming way, but the most potent way. So it's not just
Mhm.
about how can I just make money? I never think that way, and I really love the tenets of this podcast in particular, that
Mhm.
I want to be of service and I want to do a good job and deliver. And I also don't wanna do that on, like, 5 calls a day talking to people.
Right.
You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Okay.
Mhm.
So that's the basis of the things.
And it's so beautiful to have that mentality, and I know that it comes from experience, and I think while I'm on experience, this is my season of realizing that there is nothing more valuable than experience. People try to skip the
Mm,
ugly stages, try to skip the part of your story that you had to go through in order to come to the realization that, hey,
yeah.
one, I can do it, and two, it doesn't have to, I don't have to break my back to do it. Came from
Mhm,
breaking your back, and trying to do it, or
mhm.
being dissatisfied with living under the radar.
Yeah.
There is a power and a magic in being courageous and, confident, not confident, but courageous enough to go through the ugly stage. um, it's turned out really well for you. I see you showing
Mhm.
up every day. You're the first person I see when I open up my TikTok. I'm usually the
Yeah.
person they say that to me, like, you're always all over my TikTok,
I
but you're
love
the
that.
person that shows up. Um, so tell me, as you kind of, come up against these walls and scaled them and gone around them and gone through them,
Mm,
what type of success have you seen? I know that you talk about going from $30,000 a year to $30,000 a month. How
mhm,
how has how did that come about?
mhm. It actually happened pretty quickly once I decided that I was gonna follow at the time, I had read a book, The Big Leap,
Mhm,
and I don't think it's all that great now, only because it's kind of like a whitewashed version of personal development, like a lot of those books are. But at the time, I learned this difference between your genius and your excellence. And
mhm,
I had a dramatic moment after my dad passed away. He passed away suddenly. And so it was where I just got a phone call and everything was different.
mhm,
And it was a real eye opener, which I think that death does that, you know? I think it's like that is the gift,
mhm,
that the opposite of it is living and, like, living in the way that you truly want to. And so that this particular time period, was facing death, and I was facing the reality that, my dad went on a hike and sat down, leaned back on his backpack, and died.
wow, wow.
The realization that that could happen, you know what I mean? That wasn't
Right.
even a possibility of it for me. And
Mhm,
so that has been and has driven me. When people are like, "Wow, you're courageous," or "You put yourself out there," or "How did you get over this or that?" I'm like, yeah. Did you know you could just, like, go on a hike and sit down and die? Because
yeah.
I'm not trying to do nothing before that, you
Mhm,
know?
right.
I wanna live. And so that really created a storm within me once I came out of the shock. I
Mhm,
didn't, I don't know if we ever come out of the grief, but the
mhm,
once I came out of the initial phases of it, I actually remember I was taking a walk and I had just listened to this book where he was specifically talking about you have this zone of genius. It's the thing that will make you the most money, right? You
mhm,
got to figure out what it is and don't live in your zone of excellence.
mhm,
And or even worse, I guess, your zone of competence. And it just hit me. Oh, my fitness career is my zone of excellence.
hmm,
It's the thing that I chose because it was the easiest thing for me to choose at the time.
mm,
In fact, when I was 26 and I chose to become a personal trainer, I had 2 choices at that time. I had been a single mom, my daughter was 6, so I was a young mom, I didn't go to college, I didn't do the standard success path, and I looked around and I was like, "I need to make a choice." And I
Mhm.
saw the options were, how can I become an expert and start getting paid within 1 year? And I thought hairdressing or personal training.
Mhm.
This was over 20 years ago, right? So things
Right.
were not as accessible. Like I think there would be more choices now.
Right.
But at the time, it's like I chose, it really just was so clear to me. That was, I became good at it, right? So I was excellent at it 12 years later.
Mhm.
But on this walk, it sort of all flashed in front of me of like,
Mhm.
why are you doing this? What are you doing? And what would you want to do instead?
Mhm.
And I think that's where the fuck it, like, you could just die on a hike. I was like,
Right, right,
"No,
right.
really, like, what would you do instead if you weren't worried about how people would look at you or you even if you knew it would work? Like, what
Mhm.
would you do if you knew without a shadow of a doubt it would work?"
Mhm.
And I came home from that walk deciding that I wanted to start teaching video.
Mhm.
Because I had used so much video. Building my first year online was all fitness. I developed a membership and courses. I had probably made 500 videos at this point. And I was like,
Mhm.
that's my favorite thing I do is messaging and speaking to camera. I've realized I really love the marketing part. And
Mhm.
so I mapped out this program called Rock Your Videos, literally in a workbook. It was
Yeah.
everything came through at one time.
Mhm.
This was probably late June, okay? By the 4th of July, a week later, I threw everything away. All of the fitness, I had a membership maybe with 15 people in it. So all of the programs I had built, changed my Facebook group name and
Mhm.
did a live video. So at this time, Facebook Live had just launched, 2016, that summer. And I was like, this is really cool. Let me figure out how to use this. And so I did a Facebook Live telling all my friends and family, I'm switching careers basically. Here's what I'm going to be doing now. And that launched really my online business career. But that program is the program that scaled me to $150,000 in less than a year. I had
Wow.
my first like $25,000 month within 4 months. And I was
Wow.
like, "Hey, there's really something to this."
Yeah, yeah,
Right?
yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, there's really something to this. And I think that it was a culmination of multiple things, right? The
Mhm.
fuck it moment, the courage to do what I really wanted to do, the stepping into what felt more like a genius at the time. Um, and also just getting on trend that's early.
Mhm.
Like, it was the stroke of luck in some ways because Facebook Live, they always push in the algorithm when it's new, and so it
Mhm.
was hot, and then, of course, nobody knew how to use it, and I pioneered figuring out how to use it for business.
Mm.
And so I think if we were to look back, that's the recipe.
Mhm.
Right? The recipe is like, "Fuck it. I'm gonna go for what I really want. I'm gonna follow the spark. I'm gonna do it anyway, even if it doesn't seem realistic, and I'm
Mhm.
gonna find something that is relevant to the moment. Like, how can I meet the moment?" That's smart
Right.
entrepreneurship anyway. And so I've done many things since then, but I found the formula. The formula is sell something people want and put it into a group form so that you're not hogging up all your time talking to people one on one.
Right. And that's the secret sauce. That's the secret sauce
Yeah.
right there. Because a lot of people jump in and they're like, "Yeah, I have to impact people. I mean, I need to talk to people." Is one-on-one at least an initial step,
Yes.
or do you just jump straight into group work?
I think it depends on your expertise. For example, I've had clients who were therapists and they had done a lot of one on one work and then they were formulating their own methodology, which is something I help my clients do. And so for them, they could go right into holding space for larger amounts of people in an ethical way. But if, like, a different example, if somebody's just becoming a coach, I will always say, do one-on-one, of course. There are phases to scaling. In my membership, I teach 3 offers, and the first one is called a breakthrough offer, and it's the what I recommend every coach or consultant have is this lower cost 1 hour or 90-minute breakthrough session that people will pay more for because you're offering like a direct tangible result.
Mhm.
So for example, right now I have a messaging power hour, and it's not just, oh, buy an hour with me, right? It's not just pick my brain. It's uh, I have deliverables. I'm going to help you clarify your niche. I'm going to help you create your message, create your method, and a marketing plan that you can take. So people aren't thinking, oh, it's the time I'm paying for. They're thinking, oh, it's the result I'm paying for. So I charge $497 for that, which in all accounts, I think making $500 an hour is really great. But I
So
believe it's totally worth it, and I have plenty of evidence that it is. So that's an example of a breakthrough session and a way to work one-on-one. I mean, I still do that. I still do one-on-one in my practice. I just do it how many I want a week, which is like 3.
come on, taking the power back. I love that.
Yeah.
So they're really exclusive. I love this theme of having the boundaries, setting the stage. I'm all about living by design instead of by default, right? So you get to choose what your life looks like, where your energy goes, who you work with,
Yeah.
how you work. But a lot of people have a hard time, I think, coming out of employment where you kind of just take
Mm,
what you can get. Right. And now
yeah.
you're in entrepreneurship, and so much of it is reliant on you showing up and doing the thing that I think you're even more likely as an entrepreneur to just take any client, maybe give
Yeah.
discounts, all types of things. How do you stay so strong in this idea and this confidence that no, I'm not taking your money, like go somewhere else.
Mhm.
I'm not
Right, because
working
it's
right
like, how
now.
do you
Like,
balance it? And almost is
mhm.
like, is it like a fantasy world to just say, "No, these are my standards, now everybody meet them."
Right,
Right?
right.
That's
Yeah.
what I hear you saying. Yeah, so, it goes in phases, and I think it's an important question because you can look at my story and I can give you advice, but my advice is always going to be from the lived experience I have lived, right?
Mhm.
That I've already done. I'm 10 years into my online entrepreneurship journey, and so it might be easy for me to say that, oh, no, ditch that client, do this or that. But what I would say is it is about standards. And so you might be, say, for example, someone quits their 9 to 5 and you need to be working, you need to be getting paid. You've got to create the standard for that moment. And so that might be, okay, I'm going to take 10 clients for free. I would
Mhm.
recommend that. 10 clients for free with a beta offer that has a strong result. This would be the breakthrough offer that I just talked about. You're going to then position it to those people as a trade. So you're going to give them the service and they're going to give you a testimonial.
Mhm.
So you always got to have value exchange, I believe anyway, just to have a good energy around it. And so then you've got to be building a brand too. Like if you want to be an online entrepreneur, obviously you're doing videos, you're creating value for people, and then you have to use what you just did and get to the next phase,
Mhm.
right? And I think this is the problem for a lot of people is that there isn't a plan and there isn't like really it's just I think everyone needs a mentor. And I think if you're trying to figure it out yourself, you're always going to be making decisions based on where you are versus where you want to go. Where I can see where you wanna go, so I'm gonna help you make decisions to get there, right? And
Right.
so we package that and we don't just stay there. We don't go, "Oh, now we're working for free." We go, "Now we have 10 testimonials and we're gonna leverage those." So twice a week, I'm gonna make a video talking about my client doing my breakthrough session. We're gonna name it something catchy. So I call it my messaging power hour because you kinda know what that is, right? So just something
Mhm.
that's tangible, and then we're going to talk about the result they got, and then we're going to price it. Yeah, that next phase or the next 10, we're going to sell it for 197.
Mhm.
Okay, and we're going to sell 10 more, and we're going to get people even more results, and then the next phase raise it up another 100, and so on. And so it's systematic with the goal of paying yourself more so you have more power, really more control.
I really love that. I love, and I want to jump into the deep end in a second, but I think it is a really good segue from how your plan is so laid out. It's brick by brick. It's not
Yeah.
start at the top, make $1 million your first year, because that's how I got started in the coaching. I was just
Uh,
fresh off watching The Secret, and you speak it into existence. You
yeah.
imagine it. You say some affirmations and you're a millionaire just like that, right? So that
Yeah.
was my mindset at first. And there's some pros and cons to it. I think that I tried some things that maybe I wouldn't have tried, maybe I didn't need to, and I'm learning more recently that a foundation like you just laid out is
Mhm.
tremendously important, because without it you end up hiring coach after coach after coach after coach and starting over and starting over and starting over.
Yeah.
um, so one of my favorite things about you is, one, your social awareness. You're tremendously introspective and connected to people, is my perspective of you, right?
Mm.
That in an industry that is supposed to be about personal development seems to be a lot more about making money than making an impact, right? So I want to kind of
Yeah.
speak into that, because I've seen you call them out. I've seen you call out the coaching industry, and I'm like, yo,
Yeah.
I'm seeing the same thing, but nobody's talking about it, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of manipulative tactics, marketing strategies that aren't that ethical, but I see you as somebody that values and prioritizes integrity, authenticity, and
Yeah.
ethics. Talk
Yeah,
to me a
for
little
sure.
bit about that. Like, how do you balance business, brand, being attractive to as many people as possible, but still saying fuck Donald Trump?
Yeah, yeah. I think especially saying that,
Yeah.
listen, I think that, number 1, how do I do it personally, I think is different than how do we do it as a
Mhm.
collective and or how do we do it as business people. So I'll just tell you how I do it personally. I mentioned briefly a neurodivergence. Part of what I have, how this comment I keep seeing online, by the way, which is I love what's wrong with you. I keep seeing this
Mhm.
on TikToks and I fucking love that. Okay, so this is that moment y'all could say, I
Yeah,
love whatever's
uh-huh.
wrong with you.
Yeah.
And so I have justice sensitivity. It
Mhm.
actually irks me to my soul.
Mhm.
I can't take it. And so there's no like learned behavior around this for me. I also was raised by a feminist lesbian activist. Imagine that. Surprise, surprise. Um, and so it's been in the bones. I just believe in calling out things that are unjust. And I also understand my privilege. And
Mhm.
I understand that not everyone can do it and that not everyone can afford to do it. Because does it lose me followers? Does it lose me sales that I do posts like that where I'm like, literally wrote it on my mastermind sales page. Do not even apply if you're a Trump supporter.
Mhm.
You're not welcome in my space. You're not welcome in my membership, which I'm scaling, right? That's a
Mhm.
scalable offer. I could have 1,000 people in it, but I'm interested in creating a safe space for people who don't just look like me or don't just
Mhm.
have, or for my mom who's the lesbian, right?
Mhm.
Like we have, and so that's just who I am. But
Mhm.
I also do think that business people, okay? So my philosophy around business is called people first. And it's literally what it sounds like. It is the people
Mhm.
first. Are you prioritizing people or are you prioritizing profit? And
Mhm.
it's very simple. It's like the glasses that we look through. And I will always choose people first. And I I feel that it is more profitable
Mhm.
money. And I think that we live in a time where it's more and more acceptable to be politically active inside of business.
Mhm.
Especially after 2020, I think people were calling for business leaders to say something. It's normal to see Black Lives Matter signs in a public establishment. And so I just think that it's a no-brainer at this point. And I personally don't want to give my money to people who don't support my rights and the rights of people, all people, period.
Right. Right. It's I think it's so interesting, not because it's who we are and it's very important, right? But because it seems from where I'm sitting, right, there is a battle between progressiveness and exception, inclusion, DEI, and capitalism at its core. Now, I tote that same line, right? So it's like, if we were conservative, this would be so much easier. It seems like, right, that
Mm,
we're the ones going against the grain, that we're social justice activists, but also capitalists at the same time.
yeah,
I don't know that capitalism is all bad. If we're down to have the conversation, I do think that it, as a whole, not on an individual level, might require some exploitation, right? So
mm,
there's definitely some big criticisms that we can have for the system that we live in, but I do
yeah,
believe that it takes more people like you and me to thrive as entrepreneurs in the system, to kind of change it, because there is space
yeah,
for impact over income for people first, right? But
yeah,
do you see that the same way? Or because I'm just like kind of just shooting in the
yeah.
dark right now,
Yeah,
that
like, how do we
if
do it?
yeah, like
That's
we're the
about
ones
it.
going against the grain, like we're the exception to the rule when it comes to entrepreneurship
Yeah.
and capitalism.
I hear you, and I validate that that feels very true, and maybe I have a different perspective being a white lady. That's totally possible that there's different lenses. I mean, I would say the factual that there's different lenses. So, I'll tell you how I feel about it, and you can tell me what you think.
Mhm.
Um, I don't actually think that we are the minority. I think that
Mhm.
this last election was complete BS and not a true representation of where people stand. I mean, I have never seen so many white people standing
Mhm.
up for people of color, standing up for immigrants, standing up for the Palestinian people. You know, there has been a lot of change just in terms of white people putting a shield over their own eyes.
Mhm.
So I feel a difference there. And I never feel worried that if I say my values, I'm not going to have a community of people who will support me. Because in my view, there's more people who want progressive ways of being, who want people first ways of being than there are otherwise. I just
Mhm.
think it's really, really loud right now, and that the worst people have the most power.
Mhm. Right.
But that where we can actually create change are is within conversations like this. It's within the communities we build and the ways that we do it differently. I don't have a game plan for how we're gonna navigate, the downfall of capitalism, but I do have a plan for how we can do it better.
Mhm.
And I wonder if that's maybe the next step versus, is the whole entire system gonna crumble and fall? I don't know. But
Mhm.
I think the next iteration of capitalism can be more conscious. And I really what I see is this war of consciousness.
Mhm.
What did Trump say the other day? Woke has died. He's gonna write a what he's gonna like sign an executive order or something. And it's like, dude, you're
Right.
so fucking pathetic. You're
Right.
so you are so afraid of how we think. And
Mhm.
so that's why, the work you do, this podcast, just thinking differently, being open minded. I mean, I literally just wrote a Facebook post about an hour ago where I was like, the most insecure, small minded, horrible, atrocious men have all the power. Imagine if the big hearted, expansive women had power.
Mhm.
And I'll include you in that. Like, we just
Yeah,
say,
no.
like,
I'm here for it. Forget about
for this
me.
scenario, right? And so, yeah, I don't think that we are swimming upstream as much
Mm.
as you think we are.
Mhm. I hope you're right. I sure do. It's I do think that you're right. Before I move on to the next question, in the grand scheme of things, I think as an American population, I think you're absolutely right. But I think what
Mhm.
I'm talking about is specifically in the entrepreneurial space, because I was taken aback by, all the connections and the friends that I've made. I've started this podcast 4 years ago. Some of the first people that I interviewed, when things, started to bubble up, they turned out to all be Trump supporters. And there's like, you're the most spiritual, meditating, crystal, sage type of free spirit type of person that I've ever met. How did that turn into this? So I guess I'm just kind of like shooketh. And I'm like, yo,
Yeah.
who's who? What's going
Yeah.
on? Because I love what I do. I love putting people first. But the second that you start telling me, because I've hired so many coaches, the second you start telling me some of the things that I heard when I first started, I'm second guessing you not as just an entrepreneur, but as a person. And
Mhm.
it's a very scary environment to kind of navigate. But then people like you show up, and
Mm.
like you said, like you feel safe, you feel seen, you feel heard, you feel that yeah, this is possible without sacrificing your ethics, your morals,
Totally.
needing the dial back. I had, and I'll say this and I'll stop. I had a mentor that, because I'm so passionate, I guess I might have a justice sensitivity too.
Yeah.
Um, I was posting whatever came to my mind on Facebook, and it's like, yo, you need to stop talking about that. Stop doing it. Like, it's not going to make you any business. It's not going to get you any other
Who's
clients.
who said that?
One of my mentors, his name was
Uh-huh.
Billionaire.
His name is what?
Billionaire. Well, that's what he
His
goes by.
his name is that. Okay.
Billionaire.
Is
Yeah,
he a
yeah.
white guy?
No, no.
Okay.
He's black, yeah. But
Okay.
he's not too politically inclined, but I remember vividly, he's like, "You need to stop doing that," and I remember how conflicted I felt within myself that, yeah, there's a lot of things that I admire about you, and there's things that you've helped me with, but this is not one of those things that I'm willing to, you know, uh, you know, give me a word. Need a word.
Sacrifice or
Yeah,
abandon
sacrifice.
about yourself?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, compromise on. This is not something that
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
willing to compromise on, and I've been
Mm.
very loud and proud about it, but there's always this other side too that, this other voice that plays in my head that says, the more controversial you are, the more you pick a side. Yeah, you're going to, repel people, but you'll also be that much more attractive to the people that you're supposed to work with.
And that's absolutely true. Okay, I have, like, a lot of things to say about this. Number 1, when somebody shuns you for speaking up for your values ultimately, right? And I want to you're like, "No, that's great. You feel safe." I just want to say that shit happens all the time, okay? It's
Mhm,
not like I'm not subject to hate because of what I do. It's that I don't respect those people
mhm,
and I do not want the life they have. There is not one person who's going to tell me to be quiet who I would trade lives with.
mhm.
And so I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, what do I care? My whole brand is sensitive baddie, but I will tell you, I am not emotionally sensitive. That's not
Uh-huh.
what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like my nervous system, okay?
Right, right.
And it is it takes a certain strength, but I think it really just takes a dedication to your values and alignment to those. And
Mm,
so a mentor who's going to judge that, I think is just ridiculous. I will also say
mhm,
I would not recommend if you have a coaching or consulting or expert based brand online to make even half of your content political. Start a different account
mhm,
if you're gonna do that, because that's just branding, okay? I think that it's totally fine. I think it's important to pepper it in, but and I could literally make a video every day, and I probably could go viral because my political content always goes
mhm.
viral.
Right.
Um, or the calling out the, spiritual BS,
Mm. Oh
gaslighting,
my God.
whatever stuff, right? That stuff always goes viral for me, but I don't want that to be the way you think of me. I don't want that to be what you invited me onto your podcast for. It's part of
Mhm,
it,
mhm,
right? But that's the branding aspect.
mhm. Right. Yeah, I agree 100%. I'm so glad and refreshed that we were able to have that conversation and to kind of go there, because I think that what is, most attractive is who you are and what you stand for, right? And like I
Mm,
said a couple times, it's your priority for ethics and authenticity that convinces me that people are actually being changed by you.
mm.
Before I let you go, Jaya, I gotta ask you, right? because there are people that are listening right now. They're totally inspired, right? They're wanting to get to know you a little bit closer. Where can they do that at? What's their next step?
Okay. I have multiple free resources. And I did this very specifically because depending on what level you're at, what you're ready for in terms of investment, I want you to be able to have some transformation with my work. So I have a free course that I give away called the Money Making Mini Course for sensitive baddies. Right. And so sensitive baddie is really just a representation of big hearted entrepreneurs who put people first, because we are more sensitive, right? We're in tune. We are connected to each other and to the world. And that gives us a different viewpoint. And so that's the way I teach business. That's the way I teach strategies. Everything to me is holistic. And I'm never going to just tell you what to do without adding nuance and some type of example or understanding that can help you apply it to where you are versus where I think you should be or where I am.
Mm. I love that. And I want to just put a magnifying glass on that really quickly, because in my personal life, I've always felt like, where I should be is always projected and pushed onto you. And nobody
Mm.
spends enough time asking questions, finding out where you are, what you're thinking, what you're
Yeah.
feeling. Those always get pushed to the side. And they're the most important part, because without that, that's the engine to the car, right? Is what you're thinking, what you're feeling.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
without paying or creating space for that, then nothing tends to work. So I'm really glad that you said that. My last question for you, Jaya, is what can anybody listening right now, a baby step to live a little bit more by design instead of by default?
I think I'd play off of what you just said because what I'm hearing is that people don't take the time to figure out where you are. And so I think it's our responsibility to have that as a North Star for ourselves, that whether we hire a mentor who doesn't get us, or we follow someone online, and, you know, the stronger our North Star to our authentic self and to what we stand for, and part of that being this desire to not burn out, right? Like this is the original thing we were talking about, not burn out, not overgive. For me, it always is recognizing where I am. Like I think it's
Mm,
the most spiritual, most practical thing we can do is check in with ourselves and see, well, what are we desiring? Where are we now? And to try to just like come from that place most often. And maybe that's a filter system that somebody's giving you advice. And then instead of just taking it at face value, you go, how does that fit into my life? How does that feel in my body? Oh, I feel resistance. Wonder why I feel that resistance. So, this is what I mean by creating a North Star for yourself around checking in. Because, unfortunately, no one else is going to. Not no one. I will. I will do it, but most people won't, like you said, but it doesn't mean it shouldn't be done or it's not valuable to do so.
mhm.
It's like being true to yourself, really.
Right.
That's what the whole sensitive baddie movement is around. It's like be so fucking true to yourself that you do repel everybody who doesn't align with your values and subsequently attract a lot more people who do.
Let's do it. That was amazing. Oh my God. Thank you so much for spending some time with me. The gems that you dropped on this podcast are forever appreciated. We got to do it again. And to everybody listening right now, as always, love, be well, and don't forget to have the guts to follow your guts.